chat room, which we do every Shabbat morning after my Devar Torah, so that we give people like 10 minutes to sort of schmooze together. So I'm also want to think about how to use that, whether, you know, we intersperse some teaching with that, or what we do to make it so that people have a chance to be more interactive. The other thing that we're doing for second day of Rosh Hashanah, you heard Rini and I already talking about, I'm a Yoel Sykes groupie from Nava Tehillah. So he is going to be doing a prayer concert for us second day of Rosh Hashanah. So we're going to do an earlier kind of Zoom service, and then this sort of prayer concert. And why I call it a prayer concert is he does a concert, but he intersperses it with like meditations and a little bit of teaching, so that it'll be different, right, than a service, but hopefully something that people will be able to you know, relate to in a different way. And then the other thing that we're doing on Rosh Hashanah second day is this is actually the one that sounds the most fun to me, is we're going to do drive-by shofar blowing. So we're going to set up in our parking lot, and people, you know, will have to sign up, and, you know, you can come in from 2 to 2:30 or 3 to 3:30, drive into the lot, hopefully get out of your car unless it's raining, and we'll have shofar blowing and the ability for everybody to hear the shofar, see each other, wave. We'll probably have a little snack out or something that people can, you know, sort of take on the way. We actually have a little stream on the roads. We might give out little breadcrumbs and tell people, you know, stop and go do tashlich, you know, on your way out. So that's the one that I find like the most exciting. The idea that we will be able to at least let people see each other. I'll be able to see people, and people will get to hear the shofar live. And I'm frankly hoping that, you know, I'm on this not to present because I think I have these just mind-blowing discoveries that are now going to transform all of your congregants' High Holidays experience. I'm actually hoping that I'm going to hear things that you're doing to do this. And I have to say, not to malign my colleagues in the Rabbinical Assembly, but I also signed up. You know, Hartman is doing this unbelievable programming, which if you haven't signed up for, you don't know about, please go to their website and see what they're giving away for free to rabbis at the end of June and the beginning of July. And they asked me if I would lead something for rabbis about something like this. And they said, do you want just conservative movement colleagues? And I said, oh no, absolutely not. Like, I want to be exposed to the largest, you know, group of rabbis to hear, you know, all the creative things that people are doing. So I see in the chat.
Yeah, Deborah, I see two questions. One is,
yeah, I can see them.
Do you assign people to chat rooms before?
So we don't. Like, we have this very nice thing on Shabbat morning that our head of building and maintenance is on. He's on every call. So if there's any I don't have to learn any technology. And if there's any glitches, he's there, he's on it. So I feel like it's like spinning the, you know, roulette wheel. We randomly put people into a chat room on any given Shabbat. So every Shabbat you're with, you know, hopefully potentially different people. You could pre-assign, I mean, but the problem is we don't always know who's going to be on in advance. We mostly don't. I mean, I shouldn't say, we probably mostly do, because it tends to be the same people, but really, you really don't know. So that seems to work out, and people like it. And yes, 50 people in person. So this is what we are thinking. As I said, we're like highly negotiating this. So we're thinking, who would the 50 people be, and how do we choose? So the 50 people would be obviously myself, our chazan, my husband, his wife. So there's 4, like right there. Our executive director, our building and maintenance person, we have percussion, so our percussionist would be there. And then the other 50 people would be, we assign the Torah reading to teens. So any of the teens that are reading Torah and their family members. So that's it. So there's no, you know, and then the people that will get Aliyot, I mean, obviously the working out the choreography of the Torah reading to make sure that everybody's safe. I sort of envision that the Torah is going to be out and covered. We're obviously not walking with it. The only people that will approach the Torah are the kids that are reading, and their family members will have the Aliyah. And then they'll have to go sit down, and then the next person will come up. So for us, in a way, it's easy to choose the 50 because it's people that will actually have a role in the service. We are letting, since the kids are already learning the Torah reading, we did let all of the families know that if somebody does not feel safe being there with us, then their child can record the Torah reading, and we'll play it, right? We'll live stream it, and that's what will happen, but without an aliyah for that Torah reading. So the idea is obviously we have to be the most flexible that we can possibly have. I mean, in a way, we thought about what if we could have live services with 25% capacity. North Shore Center would allow us then to have potentially 200 people, but we have at our biggest services 800 people. So that to me seemed more complicated. Like, do you do a lottery? You know, the people that are really bummed because they never go on second day Rosh Hashanah, but that's what they got. Like, that seemed really, really complicated. So in a way, I feel like once we take that off the table, it's made things a little bit easier. I don't know about any of you. I'm not getting really pressure from the congregation about when are we opening at all. Though I will say, and then I will turn it over to the next speaker, that last Friday night, we had a drive through. We had Friday night services in the parking lot. We're right next to New Trier West, right across the street. They allowed us to use their parking lot. So we set up live, we had our percussionist with us. People were allowed to get out of their cars and have lawn chairs by their car if they wore a mask out of the car. People were so happy to see each other. It was a beautiful evening. So those are the sort of ideas that I'd like to hear more about, is how can we, in the fleeting time that we'll have in summer, utilize outdoor space. Somebody did say to me, could we do this for the high holidays? And I don't think that the lot is big enough. Then you also deal with bathroom issues of, opening your building. If, it's one thing to do an hour service, it's another thing to do a much longer service. I think it just, and if it's super hot and the sun's beating down or it's raining. So I feel like we have to use that, very judiciously. Anyways, I don't know, is there any other?
I'm going to ask a question. When you go to your chat rooms on Shabbat, do you ask people to have a chumash with them, or are you sharing text with them in some way?
No. So what I've done, and listen, I am speaking as probably unusual in this way. I don't think I'm representing many of my colleagues in the Rabbinical Assembly. I now rely really hard on Sefaria, and I always make a study sheet beforehand and do a screen share on Shabbat. So, because I don't assume that anybody at home has a chumash in front of them, and I'm not actually 100% sure, or the same one, so I can't even give them a page number. So I'm not even sure for many of my congregants, if I said, turn to Numbers 13, verse 4, how easily they're going to be able to find it without me giving them a page number. So I make a study sheet. I do a screen share on Shabbat. It's a bizarre way to teach when all I can see is a text and a few people in the corner. But that way everybody has the same text in front of them. And I will say that the nice thing that the Rabbinical Assembly did was made our Siddur available by PDF. So we have that link on our website so that everybody, can, if they don't have a Siddur at home, can still have the Siddur on their computer. People have asked me if I would screen share the Siddur during Shabbat morning services, and I've said no. Because I like seeing everybody's faces. I don't want to be staring at a screen of a Siddur. So I'm a little heavy-handed in how I feel about it. But for me, the pleasure is being able to see everybody's faces. Otherwise, I might as well be live streaming alone from the congregation.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
You're
If there
welcome.
are other questions, put them in the chat and we'll come back to them. Thank you to Rabbi Deborah Newman-Kamen. And we're going to hear now from Eitan Weiner-Kaplow, who is Reconstructionist Rabbi at Shir Chadash in Wheeling.
Ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, Rini, for inviting me to share some of the ideas that we're working on here at Shir Chadash. And thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Sam. It's an honor. So let me go over a couple things that we're doing at Shir Chadash. And some of the tips and things that I figured out that are going to be helpful for us. I'll just go over the list actually that Rini that you gave me. I'm going to go over it quickly and then I'm going to come back to one of the focus areas of mine. My deepest interest is technology. So at Shir Chadash, we've pretty much decided that we're going virtual this high holidays, that there won't be a live component. Now, we usually meet at Our Lady of the Brook Catholic Parish on Dundee Road in Northbrook, and we do have a contingencies. Should there be a major change that allows us to meet, we will be there, but it's unlikely. Our concern is really over liability, not only insurance liability, but seeing that what happens if members of our congregation do become ill because of having been together. And what does that mean in terms of pikuach nefesh? What does that mean in terms of just public health and taking care of our community? So right now we are operating as if we are virtual. The plan right now is that I will be in the sanctuary leading the service, and we'll have a producer, director, Zoom, obviously controller in the building with me, and that will be it. All of the other participants in the service, readers, Torah readers, singers, even our dancers will be at home. And we're going to just keep moving our Zoom screens and pinning. It's to pin different presenters as we move through the tefillah. Now, our musicians. Okay, so technology I'll get back to in a second. So I'll be in the sanctuary. Music's going to be all pre-recorded using the kind of Brady Bunch Hollywood squares, and we do have a member who can do that, and they're working on it right now. Now, I have honed down all the music that our choir will be singing down to 8 pieces. That's it, 8 pieces. And they're going to work on this all summer and pull this all together. It's very technical, it's very difficult. Not only do they have to have a click track and a sing-along track and get their video and recording properly, but once the recording is done, then they have to lip sync a video, because that video is not usually live with the audio recording. So, and then there's corrections made for the pitch, tone, and it's very complicated. So 8 songs. Kol Nidre will be chanted live from a member's home. Pieces like that, and certainly as I'm leading some of the musical pieces that I do, I'll be doing live from the Bima. Let's see, participation of lay leaders, they'll be home. And we'll switch our screens over to them when they have their reading part or Torah reading part. We're going to have our Torah readers read from home, and I'll follow along in the Sefer Torah from the Bima. We want to keep everybody safe, even though there is just a tremendous loss in not being together. On the other hand, what we're planning for Shofar is similar to what Deborah mentioned. It's an idea that we're playing with for the Northwest synagogues. It was an idea kind of floated a few weeks ago. We haven't moved much on it. But the idea is that on the afternoon of Rosh Hashanah, second day, most likely, maybe first day, I know it's Shabbat, we'll have various areas around the northwestern suburbs to come for shofar blowing. And the idea is possibly that representatives of different synagogues will be at different locations, come to the closest one. And at that location will be tashlich and shofar blowing. We'll keep social distancing, but people will know that I'm at the bridge over the creek behind my synagogue, but other synagogues will be leading tashlich and shofar blowing at other places. So that's an idea that we're working on, we're thinking about. I don't know if it will actually happen. Um, Zoom services will be shorter. It's going to shorter because there's less music, shorter because there's less time in between readers coming up and going down. We often do group aliyot for the Torah readings. We're not going to have that. Um, so just by the nature of going to Zoom, everything is going to be shorter anyway. But yes, I will be paring things down. People can't do more than an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half on a Zoom call. After that, we're going to lose them. So we will be paring it down, no doubt. Family services will also be in a Zoom context. We've been doing them already for Shabbat, and it works. Um, so let me offer a couple of ideas in terms of technology and things that I've discovered, whether it's for the high holidays or whether it's for our Shabbat or Elul or things that we'll be, presenting to our members over Zoom. In my home in Skokie, I have my own little television studio all set up. And here are some of the things that I've added to my studio to make things work. First of all, I've wired my house and everything is on Ethernet. Okay, I don't use Wi-Fi because Ethernet gives me triple the bandwidth, and I don't have any trouble with buffering or pixelating. If you can run Ethernet cables from your router to your computer, it will make such a difference, and it's very easy to do. Just watch a couple of YouTube videos and you'll have it. Otherwise, you can bring a professional in, but it's not all that difficult. Even crimping, putting the crimps on the end is a fun thing, and you'll feel really good if you can do it yourself. Otherwise, call me up. I'll come over. I always restart my computer before a Zoom call. Because I don't want my computer to crash. I don't want it to be running other programs. So it's another idea. I always restart. I always think about my backdrops too. And now I'm using virtual backdrops today. And when I'm working with my congregation, I do use virtual backdrops from the building. So what you're seeing today is my library, and I can switch over and I can lead from my conference room, or I could be in the youth lounge today, and or maybe let's just go to the sanctuary. And so I've gone around the building and taken photographs so that people can feel like, oh, there's our building. We're not that far away. We're doing a service. We're doing an adult study class, and look, it looks like the rabbi's in the building. Ah, how nice. So I'll use my virtual backgrounds that way. I'll go back to the library now. When I'm leading a service, I'm not using virtual backgrounds. I actually have a wall in my study that has clips above, and it has a big bar across, and I'm hanging all different kinds of things as backdrops. Rini, you're gonna have to stop me, when my time is up, because
Okay.
I'm on a roll. So think about what your virtual backgrounds are. Think about which camera you're using. Okay, it's a big thing for me. I'm on an HD camera that I'm plugging in for USB, but I could go back to my regular. Let me show you what my regular computer camera looks like. I'll switch back there, and it should go there. Are we there? Yeah. Are we should be on my regular built-in. Okay, I think that's my regular built-in. So it tends to pixelate a little bit. Let me see if that's correct. Hold on one second. No. Hold on. This should be my, hold on, let's go. Go, go, go. Yeah, this is my regular camera from my laptop. Okay, so it's a 720p. It's okay. It's good. It's what most of us are using now, but you can go back and use an HD camera. Let me go back to my HD, and you'll see the difference in just a moment. That's the HD camera. All right. With the HD camera, you can also get an app. It's called Webcam Settings. It's an app you can download from the App Store, and with this thing, you can do some really cool things, and it'll make it look better. You can adjust your brightness. You can make it super bright, and you can, let's see, okay, are we there? Hold on one second. Let me go back to my settings. There. Okay. So you can make your camera super bright and overexpose. If things are too light, you can darken it down. You can play with the saturation and you can turn it into a black and white camera if you need to, though I don't need to. And you can do that too. You'll have settings where as you're watching, you might actually just need to zoom in a bit just because you're just too small. So there are ways that you can actually control your camera, and I can help you with that. But I'm just giving you details, and that's important to me. That my lighting is correct. That my light, and I do use different lighting. I want it to look good. All right, I want it to sound good. I use an audio interface when I'm leading a service, which means that I can plug professional microphones into my Mac. All right, it's called an audio interface. FACE. Okay, I know we do interfaith, FAITH. This is FACE. And when I'm leading a service, I'm using professional mics, but also I have an earpiece so that I can hear and get feedback or comments from the person who's actually hosting. So someone else hosts. When you're using Zoom, figure out how to use something called original sound. You can find that all in your settings. Go to your audio settings and set your Zoom app for original sound. I'm using that now, which means that you're going to get a full sound. You're not going to get the Zoom compressed sound. Okay, as leaders of the service, the original sound, find that in your Zoom settings. Just change a couple things, you'll get a much richer sound coming across, even with your own computer microphone. I use solid colors. I don't use stripes because of the strobing that you sometimes get with the LED lights or whatever you might be using. Um, I tend, when I stand, I tend not to tilt the camera up or tilt it down, whatever. I have my camera on a tripod that I can actually lift and drop, because I found that sometimes when I tilt the camera up, all of a sudden you're seeing all the stuff on the top of my ceiling that's holding all the drapes up and down. Um, I use gallery view and speaker view at different times, and I use the pinning video feature. So these are all different things that I'll be using for high holidays and things that I'll be using leading up to the high holidays. I mentioned we have dancers. Dancers will be making recordings, and then they'll share their screen. So I'm going to stop with that. A little bit more into the technology area to make your recordings sound good and look great. Okay, I'm going to stop there.
Thank you. Yasher koach on figuring out all that technology.
Yep.
Not in my comfort zone, but exciting to hear about.
I'll share more with you in greater detail.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, if people have questions, we can certainly come back, so put them in the chat. Rabbi Sam Gordon is going to be sharing some ideas with us. And again, he's at Sukkot Shalom, and he is a Reform rabbi. So take it away, Sam.
So like many of you, since March, we've been trying to do lots of different things. And it's interesting. I think many of us are doing different ways of coming about this. What we have been doing for worship has been. I'm hearing a lot of.
Oops, hold on, let me check.
A lot of feedback.
Hold on. For some reason.
Would people mute if they're not muted?
Yourself, because some of you I cannot mute for some reason.
Yeah, if others would mute themselves, thanks. So anyway, what we have been doing for worship generally has been we've been pre-recording. I work with our colleague Carly Daniels, as we have a cantorial soloist, Kenny Lyonsworth. So there are three of us who lead services, and we do that from our homes, and we pre-record pieces and then merge them together, and that then goes out on Facebook Live or on YouTube and has a running live chat that we monitor and continue, so that people are live chatting even though the service itself is pre-recorded. We use Zoom at times, but generally not for the service. We'll do Zoom for kind of candles, challah, kiddush, and sometimes we'll do Zoom for Havdalah, but not for our main service. We'll live stream, live song sessions and other things like that. One of the things with Zoom is that the music quality is really bad, and we're able to do a much higher quality pre-recorded service, and then we're each able to do it from our home. So now to move to High Holidays. There will be no in-person service, whether it's 10 or 50 or whatever. Everything we seem to know right now is that the most dangerous thing is singing and loud talking and aerosolation. And so there will be no live setting, there will be no in-person service. We also think that we can do a better job of creating a spiritually meaningful experience without having everyone have to wear masks and be quiet and not sing. We actually think we can do a better job this way. It's going to be much shorter. We're thinking of aiming for 45-minute to 1 hour at the very most services. What does that mean? Well, one way of looking at it is also to look at the 10 days and not have everything in the on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We only do 1 day of Rosh Hashanah, but to look at the whole 10-day period and do certain things like we're thinking of doing Jonah or a deep dive into the Akedah or the healing service. We're not completely sure of everything, but to do those on other days and to provide those at other times. The same thing with sermons will be 8 to 12 minutes at the very most. I think the idea of creating the experience of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and to not do repetitions, so that if we're going to do Avinu Malkeinu, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it the same way each day, and we're not going to repeat everything each service. So it's going, in some ways, I don't mean this dismissively, it's going to be best of. So you're going to have those experiences. So we're going to concentrate, we've been asking ourselves, what are the things that people need to experience so that they know that it's been Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? Zochreinu becomes more important than Avot V'Imahot, as an example. So we may be concentrating on that. We've already been using the Hollywood Squares or Brady Bunch pieces. Kenny Lyonsworth, who is our music person, is extraordinarily talented. If you want to go onto any of our YouTubes on our website right now and see what we've done in the past, but he's been doing 6-part harmony with acoustic guitar, electric guitar, violin, and piano all himself. And so he's been able to do that. It's been extraordinary. People love that. We're talking about doing something more of a Erev Rosh Hashanah Seder that might be more of a Zoom, people at home. One of the things that Larry Hoffman talked about was think about setting up, asking people to set up their own homes as sacred spaces with flowers, dress a little better, be prepared to create in your own home, which is a great model anyway that we have in terms of our dining room tables being our altars and all of that. So teaching that piece and kind of emphasizing the positive part of doing this from home. So that's another part. We will not do 3 shofar services. It's going to be 1. And because I think the attention span of sitting in front of a screen for a 2-hour or 3-hour service is just not going to work for us. Now, one of the things we've been doing our services all from our homes. We are intending by then to record in the sanctuary from the Bima. Now, obviously, much of that will have to be done individually. We've also talked about in terms of bringing in all the past presidents one at a time to hold the Torah for Kol Nidre, and then have that be a visual. We are using professional production company and post-production companies to work with us. So we're going to be there are going to be significant improvements, just as Eitan was talking about, in terms of sound and lighting and cameras and so forth. One possibility, which we're not there yet, is maybe being able to do tashlich with enough social distancing that we could actually do that for Rosh Hashanah at the lake. So I don't know if that's going to be possible, but we've talked about that as the only real possibility for people to see each other. But we have gotten really wonderful responses from the ways in which we've been doing services now. And we've not really gotten much pushback in terms of not being in person. And when it's explained to people why we can't be in person, particularly because of the singing and so forth, people understand that and they get that. And when you say, well, if we were in person, you'd have to wear, you'd have to be socially distant and wear a mask and then not be allowed to sing. Can't imagine doing worship without singing. So those are the things we've been doing and are continuing. We're coming up with our list. The first week in July, we're going to be going into the sanctuary and doing our initial tapings. And we're coming up with our list of what are the pieces that need to be taped. Obviously, other things, rabbinic sermons are going to be at the last minute, and we're going to have to figure out how to throw that in. We're not going to do them in July, but we certainly have created the pattern and successfully created the pattern of what we've been doing this summer. We do not use Zoom as much as I think some of the rest of you have been saying that you're using Zoom. We really only use it sparingly for other settings where we're not trying to create, we're not using Zoom for worship, is what I would say. So I hope I've covered most of the questions that came up, and that's where we are at this point. But I do think that the idea of thinking of the Yamim Noraim as 10 days as opposed to 2 or 3 days or 5 sets of services or whatever, and spreading things out, and then letting people, one of the nice things about the pre-recorded services, I was just talking to somebody this morning, said, well, I don't always make it at 6 o'clock for Friday night services, but then I'll watch it later on because I can pick it up all week long. So realize that what we're producing is not necessarily just for that moment. It lasts longer than that, and to realize that the technology gives us certain kinds of advantages. So anyway, so that's the other part.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to say a couple of ideas that I've heard, and then if people want to ask questions or share other ideas, if you go to the bottom of your screen where it says reactions, and there's kind of a smiley face, if you click on that, you can do the hand raising, which will just make it a little bit easier for us. I heard a beautiful idea last week from Rabbi Ari Margolis, who's at Or Shalom, that during the 10 days, they're going to have ways for people to sign up. He didn't say exactly if it's a 15-minute slot or half an hour slot or what it is, but for people to come into the sanctuary and stand at the Ark privately and just have some alone time. He was talking about how that usually happens at the end of Ne'ilah. The whole community comes up. A lot of you probably do that. But they're going to find a way for people to come during the 10 days for people to have that special time in front of the Ark. If you haven't heard of Reboot, reboot.net has a program called 10Q, where people can answer questions during the 10 days, kind of from journal prompts, and then they go into a kind of an online journal that they then send you a year later. That's a really nice program too. So those are two ideas I wanted to throw out. If you have other ideas to share, I'm curious to hear what people are thinking about in terms of sermons. If you're thinking about doing study rather than a sermon, if you're thinking about doing regular sermons, that's just my personal question. But if you have a question, use the hand, or comment, use the hand raising so we can share. Okay, great. I see Adam. Let me make sure you're unmuted. Let's see. Close the chat box.
I'm open now.
Okay, good. Adam, please.
So the question I had was, I've read different things about issues regarding copyright and internet broadcasting. As you most likely know, there's an exemption for in-person religious services to use copyrighted music, both melody and lyrics, but it's more problematic when you get to internet broadcasting. And I would even think it's a different level of complication between a Zoom meeting that's sort of a private thing and something that's on Facebook Live or YouTube where that's publicly available. And I know that there are ways that you can purchase licenses for Jewish music. There's a particular platform that makes it relatively easy to do that for most of the common tunes. But one of my concerns is if we use any popular music or other melodies, that we may be exposing ourselves to certain problems, especially if we leave videos up. And I'm curious if people who have been posting things on Facebook Live or YouTube have thought about that or have any thoughts on that.
We are not using copyrighted material generally at our services, except we do have the license from whether URJ or Transcontinental or whatever. We do have the Jewish license, but that is definitely a concern and one that we should take seriously.
Suzanne.
Thank you. So, Sam, what I'm wondering, and I'm afraid, Deborah, I missed the beginning of your presentation because I was having technical difficulties, so this may be something for you too. I'm wondering, those who are recording services and streaming them as opposed to doing them on Zoom, how do you make your services interactive?
Well, one of the things we do is that we, first of all, we keep the chat open. And so there's a live chat going on while the service is happening. So when somebody, they're wishing each other Shabbat Shalom, any number of things that happen that way. The other thing is we will often ask people to record themselves in their home lighting candles or doing challah or doing kiddush, and then we'll put that in so that we see other people, not only just the clergy leading parts. So that gets interspersed. As I said, thinking about, as an example, Kol Nidre and the tradition of the presidents all holding Torahs, we will try to pre-record those individuals, so these again see more people. But the interactive is really Zoom and pre-recording. You can pre-record extra people though, and people get to see them. That's the way we've been dealing with it.
Thank you.
Deborah or Eitan have other
One
responses.
of the reasons that we're going to be doing some of the services by Zoom, the services that are generally smaller services for us, is precisely because we can break people up into chat rooms. I suspect that, we're not we are pre-recording. It's a live service with pre-recordings included in it. It's not going to be interactive. It's just not, which is why I'm looking for other ideas like the parking lot chauffeur blowing that will allow people to see each other, because a live stream service is not. I kind of have a question for Sam though. So if you pre-record the service, what do you think that these high holidays are going to be like for you?
Well, one of the weird things about pre-recording services is that come Friday at 5 o'clock, I'm sitting there thinking, wait a second, I did Shabbat on Wednesday. I mean, for me. So my Shabbat is over on Wednesday. So it's very kind of discombobulating to be ready at 5 o'clock. I don't know if that's the question you were asking.
Yeah, kind of like, because we had talked about pre-recording Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we selfishly decided not to, because the cantor and I looked at each other and it's like, are we going to watch ourselves? Like, what would we actually do on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur if everything's done? So I guess I'm asking you a question about how are you going to take care of yourself spiritually now that you've done everything to take care of your congregants?
Yeah, I think it's a valid question. And look, everything's going to be balanced, and we're dealing with a lot of imperfection here. It's not what we would want, but yes, I'm very aware. Come Friday, I'm not leading services. I led that service on Wednesday.
Got it. I'll jump in with a little bit on the interactive. One of the elements that we do at Shir Chadash is we try to open Zoom services 5 or 10 minutes before, and we leave it. And then after we conclude, we open the mics again, and so we schmooze. So there is that sense of people being able to talk to each other, greet each other before we begin, and when we conclude, people can hang on there and turn it into a kind of a schmooze fest and wishing each other, Shabbat Shalom or Chag Sameach. And so we add that before and after. People really like that. They hang around.
So we do that too on Shabbat.
Yeah.
Doug asked a question about what are we doing about high holiday guest tickets. This is a painful reality that we decided we are not selling them. We usually take in $10,000 in guest tickets that we are not going to be able to rely on. And that is a scary, painful reality. We are also, of course, and what keeps me up at 3 o'clock in the morning is, are people going to say I'm not rejoining? If, I'll watch somebody else's free service on Facebook. Thank you very much. I'm super worried about, the financial stability of the congregation, but we just didn't see how we could ask because most of the tickets that we sell are congregants that have, friends, family, and neighbors that aren't members anywhere, and we let them come. But how could we ask somebody like, it's a live stream, and charge what we had charged? So it's a painful reality, and that decision the board approved, and that's where we are.
We're the same in terms, we have not sold tickets in the past anyway. We've had an open door, but people have contributed, and there's no question that this is an open source event that we're doing, and other than asking people directly in an appeal, not that we would do the appeal as part of our service, but that at some point making an appeal to the congregation to help support it, that we're just hoping that will take care of things. The other part, in a very more practical way, is the costs of doing this. Other than, we're spending a good bit of money on production and post-production and so forth, but there are a lot of costs that we're not assuming in doing this virtually. So there are savings involved as well.
Okay. We're somewhere in the middle at Shir Chadash. We're thinking about reducing our ticket price significantly. And for that, we'll give you the login. The idea is that we don't broadcast our high holiday services to the planet, just giving away our login. Obviously, people could, if they wanted to, give it to others. But the idea is, that's what we're thinking of, a very, very reduced price, like a $36, donation. And for that, we'll give you the login and you can join us. So that's where we're currently at.
In our last bit of time together, I'm wondering if, and this might fall if you have an educator in your congregation, but I'm wondering if people are talking about sending home resources in some way to families kind of pre and during the 10 days. I see Margaret's hand. Go ahead. Oops, wait, you're muted.
Yeah, that is actually why my hand was up. We are actively talking about what kind of kit. We have 100-ish families that we can send home to all of the families. That would include, looking at Nina's question, a moxor, something about apples and honey, some sort of shofar, possibly, you know, the plastic toy ones, but some, so that there's a shofar in the box, and some arts and crafts supply. But we're just now trying to figure that out.
I wanted to add one other thing in terms of sending things home. One of the things we do for Yisker is we read every single name that's given. And it is 20 minutes of reading names. We do not anticipate being able to do that where people are watching names on a screen. So this is not yet worked out, but one thought we have is actually to send every home a yahrzeit candle and to ask people to gather around at that moment and light their yahrzeit candles and have say their own names at home and say Kaddish together and do Yisker together with, we have not worked this out yet, but that is a way, again, more or less interactive, and also realizing that people just do not have the Sitzfleisch to be able to watch a series of names being read or even scrolled for 20 minutes.
You know, the other thing that I'm really hoping, you know, is I know what happened for the Rabbinical Assembly on Erev Shavuot, and also, you know, the CCR, you know, or the URJ had beautiful programming. I'm really hoping that our national organizations are going to help us out with some of this stuff so that we're not all creating it for ourselves. I know that the Rabbinical Assembly has some rabbis already that are working on a Seder at home for Rosh Hashanah that we can then send, so that it's, people will have to do a little bit, can do a little bit more for themselves around their own tables and less reliant on us. You know, I have to assume they all came through for us for Shavuot. I would really love, if I knew this already by tomorrow and not by August, but I'm really hoping that there's going to be other things out there so that we're constantly, not each of us, you know, creating all of this on our own.
Great. And I can send those resources out to people when I see them. Thank you.
Okay. Good. I'm going to jump in and just offer something about backgrounds. While I mentioned in my presentation that I use virtual backgrounds a lot, for those who don't use virtual backgrounds, just be aware of what's, you know, in your room and what's in your bookshelf and what's hanging on your wall or on your door. If you want, you can use something like Photo Booth or any of those, your cameras, you know, to just, before the actual service begins or the class begins, the program begins, take a look at what you look like to others. You know, so I'll turn off my my background, and it's okay. I've got my instruments and my banjos and my guitars, you know, on the wall. But is that the background that I want for this service, or would I like something else? So please give thought to what people are seeing behind you. Because some people are very visual, and they're going to spend their time just kind of looking over your bookshelf or figuring out what that thing is in the corner. And you want them focused on the material and the content of the event.
I've got to get closer. I'm on.
So you can take a picture of the outside of your building too.
I just posted my sanctuary.
Yeah,
so
looks nice.
There we go.
Very nice.
There we go.
Yeah, something I just put on chat, on the chat, is to really think about, like, some of you gave examples, Deborah gave an example of what she would be doing about shofar, and really owning it publicly and providing alternatives, only because Chabad, to their credit, will do it. And if that's and that will be the public face of high holidays when people are not gathering in shuls. Now, kol hakavod to Chabad. But I think you have a wonderful opportunity to train some people to blow shofar. It is not that hard to learn, as most of you know. It can be exciting for people to do it, and then to schedule careful social distancing, obviously, because of the spewing. But I think it really could be a nice thing that adds that personal element in multiple locations, aside from just it being part of the service.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, and the possibility of, as I mentioned earlier, of connecting it with Tashlich possibly, since people, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ed, I see Ed Friedman.
I've been running into some issues now that since we have such a small congregation, the numbers have always been relatively small at our Shabbat services, and I'm getting some pressure now for people. What can we get back into the building? Can we do this or whatever? And we do have a service out in the parking lot this Friday night. It'll be the first time we'll be together, and some people, but we're going to continue to do the Zoom service a little bit later on as usual time. So the Shabbat under the stars, which won't be any stars out at that time, will be earlier, and then we're doing a later service. We've decided for the high holidays that we're going to stick with Zoom. We had talked about the possibility of live streaming, and we decided that was just too impersonal and didn't seem like a real service. And I've got a group. The people who come on Saturday mornings are a rather traditional group, and that group when I suggested cutting down the service, they were a little bit concerned about cutting it too much, and they're used to that long service. And I think the best bet is really just to give an approximate schedule, as we usually do, of when things are, and let people tune in when they want. So what we are doing is training some additional gatekeepers to let to monitor the waiting room and let people in and out as they would do into the synagogue as well. As we do our Shabbat services, I've got a couple of people who are the gatekeepers now, so I don't have to worry about that. We also are using the Lev Shalem copies that we can put up, that we can share on the screen during our service. So we are following through the service with that, and we've recently were notified by the RA that they plan to make Lev Shalem Machzer available as well for the holidays, and that's not the Machzer that we use. And so we had talked to the folks at Prayer Book Press, and they said there's a possibility of making it available for people to copy for themselves their Machzer Chadash, which is what we've been using, and that seemed like an awful lot of work for the holidays. And instead, we thought this might be the ideal opportunity to switch over to Lev Shalem, and so we will be talking about that tomorrow evening in our religious committee meeting about making that change, and then letting people know about the discounted price for Lev Shalem. One of the things we discovered, the discounted price, is that you can get instead of $49, you can pay $29, but then the postage is ridiculously high, so you end up paying the $49 anyway, and with the postage. So we need to have a group purchase of those books and distribute them. So we are we're working on that. I like the idea of the drive-by chauffeur program, particularly if we're going to start doing some things out in the parking lot with our relatively small congregation. We have on a good day 75 families. So we do have that opportunity, and I think that you're doing it in the parking lot, doing it over at the lake where we do Tosh might be an interesting thought.
I have to get off because I have another meeting starting. So, but thank you so much. It's, you know, it's good to be able to talk with colleagues, and we're all in such our uncharted territory here. And, you know, so thank you for inviting me to be part of this. And it was lovely seeing all of you and seeing all your wonderful faces. I have to say goodbye.
Deborah, thank you. Is Rini still here?
You're muted.
I'm
Oh.
muted. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. I'm going to be at a really small show for High Holy Days, and they're going to be delivering machzorim to members. I realize if you're at a big congregation, getting them back might be a real pain, but that's what they decided to do, to deliver them with maybe some honey or a New Year's card or something like that. But it's a very small group, so. Thank you. If people have thoughts or information that they really are looking for, please be in touch with me. And if you have other ideas to share that I can send out to everyone, please feel free to either email me or call me. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to especially Eitan and Sam and Deborah for sharing. So, chazak, chazak, and we will meet again. Maybe we'll do this again in, you know, in another month or something.
Great.
So,
Thank you, Rini.
Thank you,
Great to see
Rini.
you all.
Good seeing everyone.
Thanks.
All right. Sei gesund. Be well, everybody. Stay safe.
You too.